Everyone loves to shoot anamorphic, but what we don't love is the price of it. Hello everybody, my name is Mark Banyuli, I'm a cinematographer from Germany, and today I'm going to show you a cheap solution how you can get this nice streak filter look. This is the first image we're looking at. We have this model scenario where our two women here are posing in a scenery, and as you can see in the background we have this nice dreamy streaks which have this nice diagonal look, and that's the first thing you will probably notice. Is an anamorphic flare most of the time this, and it only changes when you move the camera. What they use for scenery like this are streak filters. Streak filters are something that you put in front of your camera or your matte box. It's just a piece of glass, and when you look closely at them, they have really small thin lines across the whole glass, and these lines break the light so that you can get this nice flare. Also, they come in different colors. Yeah, there are blue streak filters, there are red streak filters, so you can really experiment with different looks. Most of the time, our typical anamorphics like Coke, Atlas have this more bluish flare, or these cheaper ones like Suryo. There are very few expensive anamorphic that give you this nice warm look, which is a more cooler color for a fashion commercial, because these blue streaks always look like sci-fi, blockbuster, and these warmer ones really give a different mood. There are these Atlas Mercury lenses, which gives a warm flare, which I think are really nice. I never used them by myself. I researched a project where I can use them, but this just gives me vibes. Also, they're not only streak filters, they're also star streak filters. So where you have not just one line, you also get a second one, and there's also one with 3 lines, so you get this long starlight shapes, were also really cool for fashion commercial or music videos. But what they also did, they combined the streaks with some kind of blur filter, because around the edges they get really long and blurry and muddy, and it just gives a little bit more depth and dynamic to the shot. But that they work, you have to prepare a little bit, and they're put here in the forest in the background, just a few lights, and face them straight into the camera. Also put a few of them always a little bit off camera, so because when it's just around the edge of the lens, you get this more creamy like flares that are flaring into the image. But the biggest downside of them, they are very aggressive. So when you're shooting at night and there are a lot of street lamps in the scenery, your image will look like this: flare, 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 flare. And it tends to do a bit much. It doesn't look pretty anymore. So for a lot of situations, there you can buy them for cheap on Amazon. There are circular ones. When you want this nicer rectangular ones, they're a little bit more expensive. But the cool thing about them is you can turn them. So you can just put them on a lens, search for a different angle, so your footage has a little bit more unique character. Also, a nice technique that I tell a lot of people is when you're shooting outside, first things first, always work backlit, so that everyone already has a nice edge light. Now for just a nice key, you go in with a reflector, but after you backlit, smoke the whole background. Smoke on daylight have such a unique character and look. It just fills the atmosphere. It's a unique look. It makes everything really dense and special, and also reduces the contrast in the background, and because of the haze it also gets a little bit blue, so we have a really nice color and also color contrast of the scenery, because our actors have this really nice warmer skin tones but still have contrast. The background has a lot less contrast than our actors, and that makes them really pop. This is from the same location, and I really love this look. When you are outside and people are looking lit. Most of the time I will tell when something looks bad. But in this scenario, in these outside shots, I really like this unnatural, super clean look. But it doesn't work on all people. You probably ask yourself, why are there so many red-haired people in commercials? And the answer is pretty easy. It's an uncommon look. You don't see a lot of red-haired people in the wild, and that's the reason you use them in a lot of commercials, because now you're sitting in front of TV or smartphone, and then when the man or woman with red hairs comes up, you will just stand in a little bit longer because it's nothing you will see a lot of in your life. And then you combine the scenery also really backlit. They put the picnic around here, they lay on the ground and get from the sun this really nice edge light. And because of their hair, they start to glow a lot. So, but how do we get this nice exposure on them? There are two different ways to do. One thing is mirrors and ultra bounces. You know the light is coming from here, but they get this nice soft key from this side. So there are two options. One option, the expensive one, is to work with really strong lights that are bouncing into an ultra bounce. A very big one, you need big ones for it, because when the light source is smaller, it looks a bit more lit. But I know we want this look, but for this look especially, you need big source, 20 by 20, get as close as possible and shoot a few from your very strong lights in front of them. You also diffuse them with a quarter diffusion, and this creates this nice roll off. But when you don't have the money, the generators and the lights at all, you try to work with mirrors. Your ultra bounce stays at the same position. Then you put on a few mirrors in front of the people. Try to move the sun into this direction, and so that the light is bouncing back onto the scene and we get this nice key. For a workflow like this, you really have to check your time, because it only works at a specific time of the day. Your camera can only be in a specific part of the frame. So when you don't have the money and the light power, you have to work with time and everything should be perfect. Don't waste your time most of the time to get the perfect shots of the actors doing something. I know this should be the goal, but the overall product will be better when you're just doing a few takes and move on to the next shot, because you're fighting against the sun. When the sun is away, big problem. So if you enjoyed this video, I really would appreciate a subscription from you. My name is Marco Bagnoli and see you next time.